Mic
To all of
check.
you out there who are starting to wake up
Mic
to the
check.
truth of what's really going on in this world.
Is my mic working? I believe so, right? Let's check the mic.
Let me just say that
I have a new
all the hard
headset, so therefore we need to check the mic first. Wait.
out there who are starting to wake up to the truth of what's really going on in this
Yes,
world.
the mic
Ik vind
works.
man in de werkbus echt woest,
The mic
aantrekkelijk.
works.
Of jullie nou bij de McDrive staan, of jullie nou keihard aan het werk zijn.
There. Hello to you all. You're watching RHTVLive, and we are streaming live from the beautiful city of Maastricht, which is in the south of the Netherlands. And of course, we're going to show it on the map so people have a better perspective. There we go. So here we have the beautiful city of Maastricht, where we are live streaming from. As I've said before, it's in the south of the Netherlands. It used to be a very important city, still is. But yeah. Of course, we're going to talk politics and geopolitics. And let's put our focus on what's happening in Venezuela, right? You know, and why Venezuela? Well, there are U.S. Ships near the coast of Venezuela. Here we go. Tensions rise with Venezuela after jets fly over U.S. Navy ship 2 days ago. And we're going to take a look at the history of Venezuela, right? How did it come to this situation here? You know, where the U.S. is in international waters off the coast of Venezuela. How did it come to this point, right? So we're going to take a look back at 2014. Here we go. Violent protests in capital despite of security crackdown. Protest march in Valencia. So this is in Argentina, not Argentina, Venezuela. That's what I meant. So here we have violent protests against Maduro, who is still in power, by the way. So this was 10 years ago, and the situation has not changed, right? There was even an assassination attempt on Maduro, which we can see here. There was this drone flying over, it detonated, and we're going to take a look at this here.
Broadcast live on television, this was the moment an explosion punctuated President Maduro's speech. There appears to be confusion. Maduro later said he thought it was fireworks. But when his guards jumped in to shield him, he says, he realized he was in danger. So did the soldiers lined up on the streets. They were seen running away before the broadcast came to an abrupt end. Authorities say the explosions came from drones packed with explosives.
So there we have an assassination attempt on Maduro, and the crackdown became larger, right? The crackdown of government. And we did not really look at Venezuela, even though we know there was someone in Venezuela in the opposition party that declared himself as president of Venezuela, where we have a Venezuelan presidential crisis. This is 6 years ago. We're going to take a look at this. So, did you read the text? I did. So now you know what's going on, right? There is much more to say because there was a referendum in Venezuela where they said to the neighboring country, Guyana, this land is ours, right? They want to annex 1/3 of Guyana. And the president of Guyana said, we need assistance when Maduro is going to annex our country. So we're going to take a look at this here. Essequibo claims.
Venezuelan President Nicolas Maduro has lashed out at the U.S. Secretary of State, calling him an imbecile. This after Rubio vowed to respond with force if Venezuela's oil-rich neighbor Guyana was attacked. The long-standing border dispute escalated after Venezuela claimed the region in Guyana as its 24th state, approving a bill last that was rejected internationally. The region, which makes up 2/3 of Guyanese territory, is rich in oil reserves, with ExxonMobil leading offshore exploration efforts, which has rapidly scaled up since 2015. While Guyana insists the border was finalized by an 1899 arbitration panel, Venezuela claims the river to the region's east as a natural border recognized as far back as 1777.
Cooperation.
The U.S. Secretary of State, who is on a Caribbean tour, visited Guyana, where he signed an agreement to boost security cooperation with the country, including greater information sharing. Taking a dig at Venezuela, he bluntly warned the country against attacking Guyana, vowing to brandish the power of the U.S. military to protect the small South American nation.
The regional threats based on illegitimate territorial claims by a narco-trafficking regime. And I want to be frank, and I've said this during my time as a senator, and I have full confidence in saying it now as the Secretary of State. There will be consequences for adventurism. There will be consequences for aggressive actions. And that's why our partnership in that regard will be.
So basically, it's all about oil, right? It's always about oil, always about the natural resources that a country has. Right? Venezuela used to be a very rich country, you know, until the socialism came in and all animals were equal. We know the Orwellian term. So that's what happened in Venezuela. And now we have U.S. ships off the coast of Venezuela. And who knows, maybe it's going to spark, right? The word planes flying by the ship. So we're going to take a look at this here. Tensions are rising uh, with America and Venezuela.
And according to multiple officials, essentially confirming this news to CBS, we know that we received a statement following this report. Essentially, the Department of Defense calling this a provocative move that was designed to interfere with our counter-narco-terror operations. That statement reads. So we, of course, have heard from the President and Secretary of State and the Secretary of Defense as well that they will go after these individuals who are trafficking drugs into the United States. Certainly a higher level of tensions between the U.S. and Venezuela.
I don't know. I don't really trust the American government, okay? Because the American government had told me that there were weapons of mass destruction in Iraq, which there weren't, right? So here we have Venezuela. And do I trust Mr. Trump? Is there really drug trafficking in that region? I believe so, right? We know Colombia is a drug cartel, and other countries such as Mexico, also a very corrupt country. And the people in Mexico know that they are run by a drug cartel. But is the United States really free? Are they really free? When I look at what's happening in DC, or what has transpired in DC, we see Nigel Farage going before Congress and telling about free speech in England. And it's very, very cool to see that such an eloquent speaker can say so much in so less of words, right? So we're going to take a look at this here. Full remarks. Nigel Farage issues dire warning about Congress about threats to free speech in the West. There is someone in England who criticized a murder, and she was put into jail, right? She said something on Facebook, no, you're going to jail. You're going to jail. So at what point did we become North Korea? Where does free speech end? Not anymore, Nigel. Not anymore. Right? Was it wrong? Was it wrong to express your, concerns? Was it really that wrong? I don't believe so. We all have freedom of speech, right? You know? But nope. Government says, nope, you're not allowed to say that. Nope. So it's really weird, isn't it? You see violence on TV and stuff like that. Nothing happening there. But once it happened on the internet, right? Once it happened on the internet, oh, that's a very big concern. You know why? Because they have no control over the internet. You see, the state apparatus wants control. They want control over you. They want control over me. They want control over our minds, feeding us with lies and poison, right? It's up to you. I'm not a journalist. I'm just a concerned citizen, right? Keeping my eyes open on what's happening in and around our beautiful planet. Can you believe that? You just served prison for something you said on Facebook, and now you're not allowed to leave the country. What? Whilst all these people in Westminster, they're jet setting. They're flying over there and over there and over there. Those are the criminals. I wouldn't want to be in the UK. I know they're watching, right? We have lots of people in the UK watching, but I would not want to be in the UK. Freedom of speech is censorship, basically. Are you really allowed to say what you want in England? I don't believe so. Unless you have another skin color, right? Unless you came into England on a rubber boat and claimed that you need refuge. But the English population, nope, they can starve. They can eat sticks, they can starve. No, I love the English people. Charles Dickens and, A Tale of Two Cities, stuff like that. So we love the English, but we want to preserve the English country. And the English also want that. There are many, many protests on highways with the English flag, and beautiful to see how a country can come together on a certain issue, right? Let's see if we can find it on YouTube. British. How Britain's migrant fury sparked civil unrest. Yeah, this is what happens when you ignore the people living within the country, right? So this is 2 days ago. Let's take a look at this. Hard right. No, it's far right. Far right. It's always far right. You know, if you're looking at the world in the left point of view, it's always far right. Right? It's about protecting the kids. Over here, you can see protect our kids, and I don't blame them. You know, I don't blame them. It's their country. And the concern here is that they have nothing to say. The same goes over here in the Netherlands, right? We have nothing to say about political decision making, right? Nothing. They decide for us, and they call it a democracy. Now, we can go vote in October because the cabinet fell in the Netherlands twice. Twice. Now, imagine this, right? You go to your work and you get fired. And the very next day, you go to your work. And then you get fired again. And the very next day, you go to work again. This is what's happening in the Netherlands, right? A political standstill. And we have elections coming up in October. And yeah, we will see what's going to happen in the Netherlands in the near future. So there's a lot more to say, but have I said enough? Have I said enough? Because I can talk for hours and hours. You know, there's so much to tell. There's so much to tell. So we had a political gathering at the Congress. There, we had a political gathering of the VVD and, of course, the CDA, which are two prevalent ruling parties in the Netherlands. If we go way back in history, we see the CDA in power and the VVD also one of the leading political parties. You see, when you look at the Netherlands, you have to see this big circle, right? Divided in two, left and right. And within the circle, you have many political parties on both sides, right? Even though left has more political ground than the right side. So, and this is all to stimulate the voters, right? Vote for us, because we are going to change the country. No, you're not. You've been in power for decades. Decades. You've done nothing. Nothing. So we need something in the likes of Nigel Farage, who has his own political party, named Reform UK. And they also had a political gathering, streamed one day ago. So, and elections are far away in the UK, but still, there is a very big group in England that says we need radical change. There's even a referendum going on in England on new elections in England. So people are sick of Stasi Starmer, and even I am sick of Mr. Starmer. So I wouldn't want to be found dead in England. My murder will not be solved. So let's take a look at this here, BBC News, mainstream media. Let's see what they have to say about what's happening with Nigel Farage. Let's not forget, right, the BBC, Jimmy Savile or Savile or whatever his pervert name is, they covered that up, even though it's the media. So, yeah, take it with a grain of salt. Yep, Angela Rayner resigned, and that's some prominent figure in the Starmer cabinet. So she resigned, and this is beautiful to see. We've been following Nigel for ages. He's been in the Euro Parliament, and he had said, "You're all dictators." He even got a fine, was not allowed to speak within the EU Parliament, even though they say you have the right to speak, or freedom of speech, right? So this is why England had left the EU, because of this man here, Nigel Farage. And first he had UKIP, UK Independence Party, and then he gave it to a friend or something along those lines. UKIP fell apart, and now he's back on the political stage, and with Reform UK, and let's hope that Nigel Farage will be the next Prime Minister in England, and the elections will be held soon. We need to get rid of Starmer. He needs to go to jail. Really. There was this network of Pakistani people, and they gang raped girls and stuff. And he withheld it from courts. He covered it up. And now he's prime minister. Very, very corrupt person. And let's hope that the shining beacon will prevail. Nigel Farage, a true Englishman, right? And yeah, Dutch politics, I don't trust any one of those. We have the FVD, which is, more to my liking. And the FID has a new person that's running for the FID, Liedewij de Vos. And let's take a look at this here. Here we have Liedewij de Vos. FID chooses for a new generation with Liedewij de Vos. So Thierry Baudet, guy over here, he was also in the United States at Ron Paul's birthday or some, I believe, and a very interesting political figure. But he said some things that, he made a clown out of himself, basically. And now he says, yeah, you get the right to be the first in the party. And let's hope that we get a lot of seats, right? And the Dutch audience, well, most people are leaning towards left and then to the right and then to the left and then to the right. It doesn't really matter who's in parliament, right? The power structure still remains. It's the king who puts his signature on the contract, right? So, very interesting to see what's happening within the FID. And Liedewij had her maiden speech, and there were 8 people present in Parliament that day. And sad thing to see, the FID is being ignored by the mainstream media because they have a conservative viewpoint, right? They say we are the Netherlands, we need to get out of the EU, and which is a good thing. I hope that will be prevalent, but I fear that it will not. Right? Anyway, there is a new leader within the FID. It's also interesting to note. So, what else? What else, right? I don't know, man. Are people really politically interested in what's happening? Right? There's so much to tell. There's still a war going on in Ukraine and Sudan, and many resources are extracted from Sudan and Ukraine, of course, because that is worth fighting for. Oil, right? That is worth putting your people on the front lines for. Oil. Yeah. It's sad, it's sickening. War is the misery of the people. And very sad to see that our people in power are supporting Ukraine and not even listening to what Russia has to say. We have the former Prime Minister of the Netherlands, Mark Rutte, now chief of NATO, the worst Prime Minister the Netherlands has ever had, right? And he says, Putin, he's just the governor of Texas. You know, you're talking about a nuclear country. You know, don't provoke the Russian bear. Don't do that, Mark. Don't do that. But no, Mark Rutte says, oh, it's just, the governor of Texas. He's president of Russia, right? So much disrespect from our former prime minister. And we're going to take a look at the images of Mark Rutte saying that if we can find it. Here we have it. So in the Netherlands, there's something called the childcare benefit scandal, right? Childcare benefit scandal. And this happened under his watch. And, basically, kids were abducted by the state, some 3,000 kids or something. They were abducted by the state because they said their parents did not have the finances to take care of the kids, right? Now, why didn't they have the finances to do so? Well, the government wanted to tackle corruption and this and that. But yeah, when government does something, then they always screw up. Here we have the child care benefit scandal, the toeslagenaffaire in Dutch, was a major political and social crisis involving the wrongful accusation of tens of thousands of parents of fraud in their claims for child care benefits between 2004 and 2019. So, and this is still not solved, right? Kids are still not home. And it's all happened under his watch. So let's take a look at this piece of crap. Oh, we are sovereign nations, but when the EU decides to implement something, we have to listen to Brussels, right? Now we're sovereign nations. You are a clown, Mark Rutte. You're a clown, okay? No one in the Netherlands believes you, and now you are higher up, and you're acting like a fool on the international stage, right? No, Russia, no, Russia. Russia's going to attack. Russia's going to attack. Well, in 3.5 years, I have not seen one Russian person in the Netherlands. Not one. Right? So it's just bullcrap what this guy is saying. Stealing kids and basically ruining many people's lives, right? With the toeslagenaffaire. He's a president of a country, you stupid idiot. Really pisses me off. So, yeah, let's take a look at the map again. Basically, the EU is falling apart, right? We also have the AfD, Alternative für Deutschland, and there were 7 members of that political party that have died. Now, what's the chance of that, right? What's the chance of that? 7 people of one political party dying. But all is okay. Yeah, all is okay. Nothing happening here. They died of natural causes, and 1 committed suicide. If you want to believe that, right? People within the EU, within Brussels, are saying we have to erase history from the member states, right? Our history starts when we created the EU, according to these people. You know, these people are sick. They're very, very sick. And if we can focus on Ukraine, in 2014, we know what happened back then with Victoria Nuland calling up Jeffrey Pyatt, and who's going to be the mayor of Kiev, right? Who's going to take the seat of power in Kiev? Oh, we have these Bandera types. Who's Bandera? I don't know. Give them power. Well, okay. Ultra-national Ukrainians who are basically killing off Russian-speaking Ukrainians in the East. So the East says, we do not want to take part with this. We are autonomous regions within Ukraine. We do not want to take part of this. So Crimea has a referendum. We have Crimea here. They had a referendum and they decided to choose for Russia, right? And Kiev said, no, we don't want this. The Crimea is ours. No, we don't want these autonomous regions within Ukraine. You have to listen to Kiev. And, well, they did not. They chose the Russian side. And internationally, we knew this was going to happen. So, and now we have a new pressure point, which is Ukraine. And it's spilling over to other countries. We have Romania. Remember what happened in Romania? For the people that haven't followed RHTVLive, we were still present on internet almost every day. And we were talking about Romania. We were talking about the elections. Remember? So basically, you had a nationalist, Georgescu, and he was not allowed to run anymore, even though the elections were going on. And he won lots and lots of seats. And the Commission of Romania said, nope, Russian interference here. Nope, we have to redo the elections. Because Georgescu had a lot of seats, was the leading man within Romania, and he was against the NATO base near Bucharest, right? So, and in the second round, Georgescu was not allowed to run, so he had his right-hand man, Simeona, who also won a lot of votes. And then they had another round of elections within parliament, and they lost that. So that's what's happening in Romania. And why is this very important? Well, Russia has Crimea. So they have control over big parts of the Black Sea, right? And the Sea of Azov, which is here. So this is what NATO is trying to prevent, using Romania for war in the Black Sea. Most of the war is done on land, not on sea. Not, there are like speedboats coming from Odessa into Crimea and, blowing up ships and stuff. There's that, but not in high sea, right? They're also blowing up the bridge, the Kirch Bridge, which connects the peninsula with Russia. So here we have the Kirch Bridge. And yeah, it's always easy to have a map, right? So people would have a better perspective. So Russia has control over the Black Sea, and Romania, now they have a big NATO base which they can use for dominance of the Black Sea. We also had elections in Georgia. You guys remember that? Basically, you had three political alignments. You had one part of the Georgians who said, we want to join the EU. You had another section of Georgians who said, no, we are a sovereign nation. And you had another section of Georgians who said, we need to join the Russian Federation. And you had a president in Georgia, which was on the EU side, which did not want to leave, which led into a political crisis. And that also has many layers why Georgia is being used. Right? It's on the foot of Russia and also a front to attack Russia. Right? So, but that pressure point is gone, at least for now. And there's so much more to tell. This beautiful planet is being destroyed by power-hungry people who want war, death, and destruction. And for the people who will live through all of this, they want to control, right? They want to control. Why are they attacking Russia? Well, as you can see, it's a very big country, 11 time zones, right? And it has tons and tons and tons of natural resources, right? So for all these people that watch conflicts and stuff like that, no, Russia is not running out of gas. They have gas for thousands of years. They're not running out of gas. So people don't know, man. They don't know. They don't even care, right? They choose a side, and my side is better than your side. Do you even know why Russia intervened in the east of Ukraine? As I've said before, you had a radical right people attacking Russian-speaking Ukrainians. Russia says, don't do that. Nope, don't do that. And yeah, they kept on doing it. They kept on attacking their own civilians. And these autonomous regions, they asked the Russian Federation for help. And they even had a referendum, even though it's occupied by Russia, about joining the Russian Federation. And the majority wanted to join the Russian Federation. And this is what Kiev does not want, right? So I hope you guys understand all this. I'm not making it up. You see, the war is being provided by the war in Sudan. There are gold mines in Sudan, and you have Russian mercenaries, Wagner. We remember those guys, right? Who are manning the gold mines, and the gold that comes out of the ground goes to the Russian Federation. And so it's for your information, we know what's going on. We know what's going on. There was also a very big earthquake in Afghanistan, 6.0 on the scale of Richter, I believe. Could be wrong about that. Let's see. There we go. Share this here. Afghanistan earthquake 2025. It was pretty recent. Here we go. 2 days ago. 2,200 killed. Deadly aftershocks. So, and yeah. Let's see how the Taliban, even though it's a militant group such as Hezbollah, how they are handling the devastation of the earthquake in Afghanistan. Third earthquake within a week. We feel for the Afghan people, right? let's have a moment of silence for all the people that have died of this horrible earthquake. Now, you may say, why would you be quiet for the Afghan people? Well, they're people too, right? Many, many people have died. And as Stalin once said, one person's death is a tragedy. A million people dead is just a statistic. Yeah. Oh, man. Anyway, this is what's happening. You know, we feel for the Afghan people. You don't deserve to be ruled by the Taliban. You deserve freedom. And I believe that the Taliban is doing their best to rescue other Afghans. And let's hope that they can find restitude, right? Tragic event in Afghanistan. And who knows, maybe the earthquake will be so big that there will be a new continent, right? We know that in Africa, lots and lots of earthquakes have been happening, and volcano eruptions and stuff. And the Horn of Africa is supposed to split off. So who knows? Who knows? We're going to take a look at some images. We keep on repeating this, right? We're looking forward in history. So it's finally happening. Africa is splitting into two continents. This is 2 years ago, uploaded 2 years ago, and the tear is a lot bigger now. So let's take a look at this. We shall see. We shall see. There's so much happening in the world, you know. But I think I've said enough for now. Right? we talked about Venezuela and many other topics, such as Afghanistan and other topics, what's happening in the Netherlands and England. So we've said enough for now. We will be back. When is the question, but we will be back. And thank you all for watching.